There are places you'll never find on a map, not because they don't exist, but because they reside within you, where memories, emotions, and thoughts intertwine like a labyrinth. Carl Jung, one of the 20th century's greatest psychologists, didn't just warn us about external enemies, but also about these psychological landscapes where the soul quietly decays without us noticing. These places aren't the mistakes you've made, but prolonged states of mind. They're where you repeat suffering, deny truth, and live in illusions about yourself. The scary part is, you might be in one of these places without even realizing it. In this video, we'll explore 7 places that Carl Jung, along with modern psychological research, warned are where the soul should not linger. Because if you don't leave, you won't just lose peace, you'll lose yourself. The House of Denial. The House of Denial. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." It sounds like a prophecy, and it's true in the literal sense. In Jung's psychology, there's a concept called the shadow. It's not the evil part of you, but the emotions, thoughts, and desires you were taught aren't allowed. Envy, anger, fear, the need for recognition, the longing for love. When you deny them, they don't disappear. They retreat into the shadows and start controlling your life from within. You'll notice this when you often blame others but never ask, "Am I avoiding something?" When you criticize someone for being too sensitive but haven't dared to cry yourself. When you project strength and stability outwardly, but inside, you're falling apart. You're not a bad person. You're just living in the house of denial. And the problem is, the more you deny, the larger the shadow grows. Modern psychology calls this psychological projection, when you unconsciously project what you dislike in yourself onto others. It's like looking in a mirror but thinking you're seeing someone else. Today's society builds this house with a culture of toxic positivity, forcing yourself to be happy even when you're breaking. There's also hustle culture, burying yourself in work not out of passion, but fear of helplessness. Imagine someone always criticizing others as weak. After years of therapy and journaling, they realize, as a child, they were scolded for crying. They learned to swallow tears for approval. Now, they don't truly hate weakness, they hate the wounded version of themselves from the past. The solution? Jung didn't advise you to destroy the shadow. He encouraged you to dialogue with it. Keep a journal. Record your dreams. Ask, what am I avoiding? Seek therapy if needed, not to fix something wrong, but to see a hidden part of yourself. Maturity doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from the courage to face yourself, even the unpolished parts. And when you dare to step out of the house of denial, that's not just the first step. It's the only step to begin healing. The prison of perfectionism. The prison of perfection. You've heard it before. Perfect is the enemy of done. It sounds like simple advice, but for many, it's a real mental trap. Behind perfectionism isn't high standards, it's a deep fear. Fear of mistakes, failure, or not being good enough to be loved. Carl Jung emphasized that the drive for perfection stems from denying a part of yourself, the chaotic, weak, uncontrollable side. When you suppress that, it doesn't vanish. It returns as anxiety, pressure, and the feeling of never being enough. Modern science backs this up. Studies show perfectionism increases the risk of depression, anxiety, and procrastination because you fear doing it wrong. It doesn't make you better, it exhausts you with tasks you never start. Consider Sarah, a talented young graphic designer. She spent weeks revising a design, feeling it wasn't perfect yet. The result? Missed deadlines, lost contracts. Worse, she began doubting herself. She didn't fail due to lack of skill, she collapsed from not daring to be wrong. Perfectionism is a prison you build yourself with bricks of self-judgment, unrealistic expectations, and fear of rejection. But you can escape, not by abandoning perfectionism, but by accepting imperfection as an essential part of the journey. Start with small steps. Allow yourself to finish something even if it's not perfect. Note your mistakes and what you learn from them. Learn to say, "This is good enough for now." True freedom isn't never making mistakes. It's moving forward even when things aren't perfect. The fog of emotional suppression. The fog of emotional suppression. Carl Jung said, emotions are the language of the unconscious. When you suppress them, you don't just stay silent, you cut off communication with yourself. Like someone lost in thick fog, you keep walking, but you no longer see where you're going or why. In today's busy world, where everyone strives to be okay, many emotions are sidelined. Anger is deemed negative, sadness is weakness, and fear must be buried deep. But the scary truth is, the more you suppress, the bigger they grow. Psychological studies show that emotional suppression doesn't make them disappear. It pushes your body and mind into a constant state of alert, silently eroding you from within. Mark is a classic example. A successful young entrepreneur, he always maintained a calm, controlled exterior. Behind that facade was tension, exhaustion, and nameless loneliness. Mark believed men shouldn't complain, so instead of speaking, he swallowed it all. Until one day, his body spoke insomnia, racing heart, an emptiness he couldn't name. He didn't collapse from work. He broke from too long denying his feelings. This happens to many in modern culture, especially under toxic masculinity, a stereotype that turns emotions into enemies. We teach boys to be strong, to control themselves, without teaching them that emotions don't need control, they just need to be heard. The reality is, suppression doesn't make you stronger. It just makes you better at wearing a mask while cracking inside. Forgotten emotions won't stay quiet forever. They return through restless sleep, unexplained anger, or distance you can't explain. To escape this fog, you don't need to explode or dig up painful memories. Just start with honesty. How do I feel today? What's bothering me? A journal page, a quiet walk, or an honest conversation sometimes. That's enough to give emotions space to breathe. Maturity isn't about controlling everything. It's about facing what's truly happening inside you. And when you start listening to your emotions, the fog lifts. You'll see more clearly not just the path ahead, but your true self. The swamp of resentment. The swamp of resentment. Some pains no longer bleed, but they've never healed. Instead of letting them go, we carry them like an unseen badge, heavy on our hearts. Carl Jung said, "Unresolved pain becomes the darkness that shrouds the soul. When you cling to hurt as if it defines you, you don't heal. You build an emotional swamp. Every effort to move forward gets dragged back." Resentment doesn't explode like anger. It seeps, gently, silently. But it haunts you daily. It distorts your view of the world, where every action is a threat, every relationship a potential betrayal. Worse, it convinces you, this is who I am. I can't be different. Lisa is someone like that. After a painful divorce, she chose to shut herself off. Not because she hated the world, but because she let the hurt define her. Deep down, Lisa didn't believe anyone could love her sincerely anymore. She didn't realize her resentment wasn't just aimed at the one who hurt her, it slowly turned against herself. Modern psychology calls this a toxic emotional loop. The longer you hold on to resentment, the more your brain stays in prolonged stress. Harvard research shows people nurturing long-term resentment have a 30% higher risk of heart disease. But that number doesn't capture the true cost. The greatest loss is trust, in others and in yourself. The biggest mistake is thinking holding on to pain makes you stronger. In truth, it turns you into a prisoner of memory. Forgiveness isn't saying the other person deserves it, it's saying you deserve freedom. Forgiveness is an act of courage to release a burden that no longer serves you. You don't need to forgive overnight. Start with an unsent letter, a quiet meditation, or a therapy session where you can speak without judgment. Gradually, bit by bit, that swamp will dry up. Jung didn't promise facing the darkness would be easy, but he believed that only by looking at it directly can you step into the light. And perhaps, beyond that swamp, lies a garden you never thought you deserved to live in. The labyrinth of overthinking. The labyrinth of overthinking. We live in an era where thinking never stops. Scrolling online, choosing careers, relationships, life directional, pull your mind into an endless stream of what ifs. What if not? Should I? And then thinking stops being a tool and becomes a prison. Carl Jung didn't name overthinking, but he warned of a similar state. When consciousness is overwhelmed by reason, it breaks the connection with emotions and instincts, core elements of human growth. When you overthink, you're not living, you're analyzing life like an unsolvable equation. John, a young, successful, intelligent engineer, is a case in point. Every decision, even choosing lunch, turned into a mental battle, exhausting him. The result? Constant delays, lost motivation, and a feeling that life was slipping away. He didn't lack time, he was trapped in the labyrinth of repetitive thoughts. He's not alone. Studies show that overthinking overactivates the prefrontal cortex, the area handling anxiety and stress. Meanwhile, regions processing emotions and intuition are suppressed. The more you think, the more confused you get. The bigger mistake? Believing more thinking leads to better decisions. In reality, the more you analyze, the less you feel. And it's feeling, not calculation, that guides life's best choices. To escape this labyrinth, you don't need more answers. You need to let go. Practice mindfulness. Journal to clarify your mind. Or use the 5-second rule. If it's good, count down and do it. Your body knows before your mind does. The question is, are you listening? Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. In the labyrinth of overthinking, that unconscious part is steering you. Only by stopping, reconnecting with yourself, can you truly step out and live. The desert of isolation. The desert of isolation. Some days, you still chat, laugh, and reply to messages, but inside, you feel empty. Isolation doesn't always have a clear shape. It's often just feeling you don't truly belong anywhere. Carl Jung emphasized that humans need connection not just with others, but with themselves. When you isolate from deep relationships or disconnect from your inner self, you're not just alone, you're lost in a spiritual desert. There's no stream of understanding, no shade of empathy, and no voice reflecting your presence. Modern psychology confirms this. Prolonged isolation damages emotions and impairs brain function. Without meaningful interaction, brain areas tied to empathy, learning, and happiness wither like plants without water. Sarah's story is a clear example. A freelancer working remotely, she once thought loneliness was the price of freedom and creativity. But after months without meeting anyone or sharing honestly, she felt like she was in a barren land. No inspiration, no connection, no sense of being alive. Sarah realized isolation didn't nurture freedom, it drained her life. Many confuse independence with isolation. Independence is strength without dependence. Isolation is having no one to lean on, not even yourself. A soul disconnected from relationships slowly depletes like a desert without rain. If you find yourself wandering this desert, the lesson isn't to be more social, it's to seek meaningful connections. A call to an old friend, a group with shared interests, an honest conversation. Alongside that, learn to listen to yourself through meditation, writing, or intentional silence. Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Meeting the right person, even one, can shift your soul's journey. Start finding your own oasis, where there's laughter, understanding, and life. The desert of isolation isn't where you must stay forever. The graveyard of the past. The graveyard of the past. Who among us doesn't carry scars from the past? A hurtful word, an unclosed romance, a missed opportunity steeped in regret. But if you keep sitting among those memories like living in a graveyard, how can you move forward? Carl Jung reminded us, if you don't let go of what's past, you can't make space for the new. The past is for learning, not residing. Yet many pitch tents there. They hold on to fragments of pain, mistakes, old stories, replaying them like an endless tape. Modern psychology shows that living stuck in the past not only exhausts your spirit, but blocks creativity, connection, and openness to new things. Your brain can't be in memory mode and creation mode at once. When you keep looking back, you miss doors opening ahead. Tom is a living testament to this. After a painful breakup, he held on to everything: photos, messages, even self-blame for years. For Tom, it wasn't nostalgia, it was a retreat he visited whenever present life got hard. But that place trapped him. Only through therapy and self-forgiveness did he see. What he held wasn't love, but spiritual corpses he hadn't buried. Many confuse valuing the past with living in it. Learning from the past builds growth. Clinging to it is escaping. You can't build a new life on old ruins if you insist on keeping them in your heart. The lesson isn't to forget everything, it's to let the past rest. Say thank you, close old chapters, with gratitude, not burden. As Jung emphasized, maturity is reconciling with the past without letting it steer your future. A graveyard is for visiting, not living. We all have houses, prisons, fogs, swamps, and graveyards of the mind we've walked through or gotten stuck in. These places, in some way, are the darkness within the shadow Jung spoke of. Not to fear or deny, but to recognize, embrace, and ultimately heal. The key isn't avoiding unpolished, unresolved parts or uncomfortable emotions. It's daring to face them, listen to them, and give them space so you can free yourself from invisible chains. When you step out of the house of denial, dismantle the prison of perfection, clear the fog of suppression, cross the swamp of resentment, and gradually bury the graveyard of the past, you truly begin the journey of growth. Growth isn't absolute perfection or the absence of pain. It's the courage to return to yourself with every shadow and light intertwined. It's a journey of truth, freedom, and genuine connection. You can't control your past, emotions, or inner shadows, but you can choose to face, heal, and move forward. Every small step, every moment of living authentically is your greatest victory. And when you do that, life stops being a trap and becomes a wondrous journey where you're free to be yourself, whole, strong, and full of love. Don't miss our next video at 7:00 p.m. on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Brothers, let's light up the world, starting today.